So yeah, my name's Lucas. You can call me Luke. I am a junior in what would be, traditional high school. And I started at PLC a few months ago, I believe in like early October, late September, after I sort of realized that my high school education, well, I wouldn't say I think I realized that my education wasn't sustainable when I was in middle school, but it really took a few years for me to convince my parents that an alternative education style was right for me. Because when I was in middle school, I had a sort of intrinsic impression that my grades were sort of a direct representation of my self-worth as a person. And what that meant is that I basically, shot for absolute perfection, and anything else I sort of reflected as I'm not good enough as a person. So I only got A's and A pluses in middle school, and I sort of I characterized that as success. But even then, I recognized it was unsustainable because the extracurriculars I was taking, the homework I was doing, I would get home around 5 to 7 p.m. and then do about 3 hours of homework a night, and I'd end up going to bed around 11 to 12, and then I have to wake up at 5 a.m. in the mornings. So I didn't get a full night of sleep for like I think 2 straight years, I would imagine. And that probably didn't exactly help my brain development, but but it sort of made me realize that that what I was doing wasn't how I wanted to learn. And what sort of pushed me forward in that middle school environment was me thinking that I was going to be happier in high school. It was sort of it's sort of that notion that, as Ryan was saying, you're going to prepare for this, you're going to prepare for this. I assumed that the work that I was doing in middle school would prepare me for something sustainable and something happy in high school, but that wasn't the case. I got to high school and I was still sleep deprived. I still hated all of my classes, and at this point, I sort of started to fall off the curve. My grades went down dramatically. My happiness went down dramatically. I became much more reclusive. And it got to the point where, and this was in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, I would have about one conversation every 2.5 weeks with anyone, including my teachers. I think I had about one conversation with a student every 2 months, and that means something that's above like 3 sentences. So it was bad. It's kind of funny, but it's not funny. And eventually, at that point, I started to advocate for a homeschooling education, and I didn't know that Princeton Learning Cooperative existed, because I'd always known that I really liked to pursue the subjects which I enjoyed, which is psychology, public policy, and I would explore these through avenues just like with YouTube or with educators online, Khan Academy. And I realized that it was that kind of learning that I really enjoyed. Whereas when I went to school, it was just pain tolerance. So before I came to PLC, I would spend all my time in that limbo between productivity and lethargy, and it was mostly the latter. And homework would hang over my head constantly because it was something that you can't turn off. And what that meant is that I couldn't pursue the things that I like to do. It didn't allow me to explore learning in a way that I wanted. And I was sort of bound to the curriculum that I thought was too slow in some places and unnecessary in other places. So I finally got to PLC eventually after convincing my parents, and actually a recommendation from my therapist to check this place out. And at first, my parents, they're very, very good people, but they're very concerned with meeting expectations. So when I got here, their biggest concern was exactly how this would legally and academically get me into college, because this isn't a traditional high school experience. And like I think Ryan mentioned, that sort of has a negative connotation to it, which is I don't think is representative of what PLC does. So at PLC, I can apply myself to my work in a way that I wasn't able to at my old high school, or really at all before. The classes I take are my choice and my commitment. Instead of evaluating myself based, solely on my grades, I can actively focus on my education. And as a result, I'm learning at like a pace I never thought possible. So I can pursue the subjects I like psychology and pharmacology and public policy, in ways that I didn't know that I was even able to do. Recently, actually, I decided that my old school, which is Hopewell Valley Central High School, I conducted a 30-page research report into the efficacy of their current drug policies. And because I believe that they're inefficient and they don't confer with contemporary evidence. So right now I'm in the process of working with the superintendent and the head counselor at my old school to try and get those policies changed. And that was something that I would never have even considered being able to do, because I was someone who was a part of, the system, a part of the curriculum. And I transferred that sense of low value onto myself. And, I'm going to be honest, at PLC, I feel excited to go to school. And I haven't felt like that in such a long time. I haven't felt like that since fourth grade. And what allows me to feel excited to go to school is that I know when I'm going to school, learning is the objective. It's at my regular high school or my regular middle school, the objective is always to get good grades. It doesn't matter if you get good sleep. It doesn't matter if you internalize the information or if you pursue the subject any further. What matters is that you get good grades. And when I got to PLC, I was able to change that notion. So now I have the extra free time without homework. I can practice, physical and mental well-being. I've been volunteering as an assistant instructor for the young kids classes at my studio for martial arts, Gracie Barra, for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I've been doing much more with nature, which has just allowed me to go on hikes and bike around the DNR Greenway in ways where I don't feel stressed anymore. So moving forward, I want to, further improve my knowledge of psychology and pharmacology at PLC and pursue a university education to become a psychiatrist. And I think that if I were to try and do that at public school, I don't even know that I would even be able to get into university, just because I found it so impossible to do that kind of work that I didn't see value in and that was imposed on me. So PLC has really given me an opportunity to do things that I didn't even think that I had the capacity to do. And now I feel like for a very long time, for the first time, that I'm in a comfortable place in my life where I know that no matter what, when I move forward and I learn, I'm moving towards a future that I like. So, and I also want to focus on my life right now. I spent most of my time in school pushing forward at the prospect of a better life, 1 year ahead. And public school taught me the value of my time by basically throwing it away. So in my new life at PLC, I intend on taking it back. And that's what I'm going to do through my pursuit of these classes and the subjects that I like, so that one day I can become the person that I know I can be, and that I believe that I'm entitled to be, despite, what contemporary public school puts so many kids through every single year.
Wow, really well said, Luke. That was
Thank you.
I didn't know all your backstory too about the not getting enough sleep and all of that. And yeah, I'm so happy that you're here.
I appreciate it. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I think it's like 80% of teenagers or something insane don't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
It's
And when you said didn't help my brain development and sort of as an aside, but you're I'm sure that's probably true for a lot of kids, and that's terrible. So
it is, yeah. And I even like I sort of see it in my younger brother too.
mm,
And my old friends. One thing in particular is I used to go to South Brunswick High School before I came to Hopewell, and that is, if you're not familiar, it's a very, very rigorous environment. It's about 4,000 kids, and it's super high competition. And what would happen is I would have these, old friends that would go there, and I would ask them, what are you doing? And I had this one friend, and he was like, I'm taking AP. He's taking like, I think some insane level of calculus in like his sophomore year of high. And I was like, dude, do you even like math? And he said, no, I hate math. I was like, then why are you taking these classes? And he was like, because my parents will hate me if I don't, or something like that. So I feel like that fostering that attitude in an environment like the high schools that I used to go to is completely counterproductive to learning. And that's why I like PLC's model so much. And I want to use the education that I get from PLC and post-secondary education to sort of reflect that model of intrinsically guided education throughout the rest of the U.S. education system, so that my kids don't have to go through the sleep deprivation and hating what they do every day. I think that should be the ultimate goal of all of us in the end.
Yeah.